are stronger, stronger than you thought.
Welcome to simplywoman.tv. My name is Crystal Andrus Morissette, and I'm your host today. And for the next 30 minutes, we're talking about going from being and I didn't make this up, hot mess to overnight success. And I've invited just really probably one of my most favorite women on social media, Kim Fitzpatrick, as my special guest today. And no, I never thought Kim was a hot mess. She's going to talk about that. And so we'd love for you to join the conversation. If you're here live on Facebook, share your name, where you're from in the chat. Feel free to ask any questions or share your thoughts or opinions along the way. We'd love to hear from you. Now, let me properly introduce you to Kim. She is the mama of two incredible humans, Colby and Tessa. They crack me up. Like, Kim goes on social all the time and does these things with her family and her dog, Clemmy. And she's the wife to Jamie. She's an entrepreneur. She's a life and leadership coach, a podcaster, self-help and morning routine junkie and lover of all people. But in my mind, when I have watched Kim, she has really, I feel like I've been watching Kim for about 4 years, go from almost like, I don't mean to say it this way, but I don't know that she had a big outreach on social to just being like a serious influencer. She is inspiring thousands and thousands of people, especially women, for a lust for life. That's what she has, acceptance of her faults. That's how she shows up. She is incredibly passionate. She's about empowering others to reach their full potential, to live limitlessly, and to live their best life. So I want to thank you, Kim, for being here today, because you're just a superstar.
I appreciate that. Hi, everybody. Thanks, Crystal. I'm excited for this conversation.
I'm so excited for our conversation. I'm going to be checking with Facebook periodically as well to see any thoughts or opinions or whatever anybody's adding to the conversation. But Kim, I know I called it the hot mess to overnight success. So you actually have to tell the story, because I've heard you tell it on Instagram a few times. So yes. I thought, well, she won't mind if I call that.
I made a reel about this. It was perfect. So when Crystal and I first met, what feels like years and years and years ago, I was in I had an opportunity to be one of the authors of a published book. And I was surrounded by all these women, and I walked into this house, Mo Hagen's house. And I was like, oh my gosh, and there were in my mind, legends, there were authors, there were all these people here. There were really seasoned experts that I had looked up to for so long. And then Crystal walked in with her little dog, and I was like, oh my God. And I just was sitting there, and she happened to sit beside me, and I made a comment or I said something, and I felt nervous and insecure, because I was like, and I was like, well, I'm just a hot mess. We're all just hot messes. And Crystal looked right at me with her little dog, and she goes, I'm not a hot mess.
I've heard you say it before, and I'm always like, I hope that I didn't come across like I'm not a hot mess. It was
no, you were like, I'm not a hot mess. I'm not a hot mess. And I was like, I actually really appreciated that, because so often women will downplay themselves, right? And they'll placate to the other person to try to make them feel better. So for me, that's where I believe your mentorship for me started, because I was like, oh, wait, I don't have to be a hot mess. I don't have to say I'm a hot mess. I'm not a hot mess. I'm super successful already.
Yes.
But you default to that. You default to that.
Women do. I very rarely hear a man say, well, I'm actually a hot mess in a group of other men, but women do. And I will say this, Kim, I think it's also a strategy that, I'm just going to say it, very attractive women like you fall to sort of soften don't judge, don't hate me because I'm beautiful.
Right.
It's a bit of a strategy that's sort of because I used to do that a lot, where when I was giving talks on a stage, I might walk out and be like, I make a joke about how my fake eyelash fell off just before I just would do something to dismantle that. So do you still do that? Do you still do that? Like, I'm a hot mess? Shit.
I don't think I've said it for probably 2 or 3 years. I don't say it anymore. It's not in my vocabulary. I don't believe that I am. And it's a belief, right? You have to disrupt the belief pattern. So, and that takes time. It takes time to be like, well, if I was a hot mess, well, then this all wouldn't have been done. Right. So
Yeah,
that's
and you couldn't, and well, you knew it. You actually, I think what we're getting at is you knew you weren't, but it was a default strategy
yes.
to
When you feel insecure, when you feel not, and I was certainly didn't feel threatened, but when you feel insecure, when you feel like you're not good enough, and
intimidated.
again, it all ties back to worthiness. It all ties back to child wounding. It all, for me at least, it all tied back to mother wounding. It all tied back to all these things of me feeling uncomfortable, unworthy, not worthy to sit at this table with these incredible women that I was worthy to sit at. It made me feel better to dismantle myself. Yeah. So that was the lesson, and it was powerful.
Yeah. Wow. Well, it has, like I said, it's been amazing. For those of you that don't leave right now, but you absolutely want to go, we're going to have all of Kim's accounts, but you've got to, if you got to get on her IG, you've got to follow her. Because she will bring light into your life on the daily. And the way that Kim does it, and Kim, now you're going to teach us, because we actually need some lessons in this, because I will say, like, I know you're part of a larger company. So you came in, and is it okay for us to say that? That's okay to say.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
So you came into Beachbody. I think you started 7 years ago or something.
Yeah.
Right.
That's right.
You didn't really take it really seriously. Maybe even tell us, because this isn't a Beachbody thing, by the way. No. This is not about Beachbody, but it's that really, when you got serious about 4 years ago, are you not like in the top 10 in that entire company now or something?
Yeah, we are as a team. Yeah, we're 3-time top 10 team. Yeah. And it's been really fun. And I think what's been beautiful is, for me, it's about the impact, right? It really is about being able to figure out, what does building community look like for me? I'm a gerontologist by designation. Felt like I fell into this world because, I never considered myself an entrepreneur. I was always an employee forever, like since 13, multiple jobs, and loved it. I was an excellent employee, loved it. I really did. And I had no interest in leaving the corporate world or the field of senior living. I loved it. But then I fell in love with being able to build, my own business too. And I didn't even understand that I could do that in this way. And what that's offshooted from is, I opened a lifestyle brand called Legacy by Kim, and publishing a journal.
I see your, amazing headbands. Yeah. And there's also a story behind that. Kim, why don't you, because I know when people just sometimes look at someone and they just look like they have it all together, they don't realize there's a whole story behind it. Do you feel comfortable sharing a little bit?
I do. I'd love to. I mean, my journal that I'm publishing is actually releasing on November 11th, which is the day my mom passed away. It's releasing at 11/11. And,
I'm already going to start crying.
I know, me too. I like the dedication. The dedication says, this is dedicated to my mother, Carol Colby Tessa, who courageously gave me life while she fought for hers. And my story, a little bit about me, is when my mom was pregnant with me, her third little girl, she found out her cancer had come back, and she needed to either terminate the pregnancy immediately and start with chemo and really start going forward with treatment. And she just said that just wasn't an option. Her and my dad were like, not a chance. We're not doing that. And my mom, I think I love this whole idea that I helped keep her healthy while I was in there as a little baby. There's so much science about it. And then when I was born, she was terminal, and she passed 11 months after. So she didn't come out of the hospital after I was born. She came home for day visits. But gosh, I just feel like I have this legacy to live, and it's not just mine, it's hers as well. And
pressure, Kim, did that put pressure on you growing up? Did it make you feel like, at what age did you learn the story? Like, your mom died. Your mom died. Yeah. Like,
my dad remarried very quickly.
A lot to carry.
Yeah. And my dad remarried really quickly, like it was almost like she was replaced very quickly. So, which is hard. And now we're dealing with that as adults, trying to wrap our brain around that. And again, like, there's no judgment there as someone trying to figure out how they move forward and live their life and find love. I think but there's still daughters that are trying to grapple with the idea that mom isn't the real mom, and it isn't ever going to replace a mom. And that's where I really had to figure out. I was really angry for a long time. I really felt I believe, and this is what I love to say, is that I grew up feeling like I wasn't really that loved. I was told I was so bold and emotional and all the things, right? And that's really hard. So I was grieving, I was acting out, I had rage and grief and all these things. And it was just, if you're better behaved, you'll be easier to love. If you were better behaved, you'd be easier to love. And I look at my children and I'm like, this is my second shot. So to answer your question, Crystal, no, I didn't actually know that I had two legacies to live until I gave birth to my firstborn. And then when I had a daughter, I was like, no,
I know.
no more. Like, it stops today. It stops today. And that's the work. The work started when I realized, oh my gosh, like these stories we keep telling ourselves, this intergenerational healing that needs to be done. I always say it, and I heard it in Cleo Wade, Heart Talks. It says, if you're badass enough to feel your pain, then you're badass enough to heal your pain.
Ah!
And I love that. Yeah. Cleo Wade, Heart Talks, one of my favorite books. So just like pick it up and read it.
Yeah,
and I think it's just
write that one down, Madeline. Put that one in the chat. If you're brave and wait, say it again. I need it.
Yeah. If you're brave enough to feel your pain, you're brave enough to heal your pain. Actually, it says if you're badass enough to feel your pain, you're badass enough to heal your pain. And that's Cleo Wade. And, that's where I really started to think about that. If I can feel this rather than shut this down, if I can have those courageous conversations with what wasn't right and the boundaries I have now in my life, and I've had to build this peaceful life, which is far from that victim. It's far from that person that, gosh, you even met, like that girl, like that, and I love her. I love her through. I always say I'm going to love her through. I love all stages of me, and gosh, looked for love in all the wrong places.
Yeah.
I
understand. Been there.
Yeah.
I have a mother wound too.
Yeah.
And, it's a totally different. But it's still, it changes how we show up until we decide we have to deal with this and somehow tackle this. So, pretty incredible. And so you had your little kitties came along, and you and Jamie too, you're just quite the couple. Like, you really are. And I think I first met you because I think I had already seen your husband do some Facebook stuff. And then when I met you, I still didn't know you were the wife of the guy that would do these funny things in stores and be like, I'm driving to, I don't know where. I remember the first time seeing him, sort of like, I'm driving to a convention. And I was like, who is this guy? And then when I put it together, I was like, you guys are the best couple ever. You could probably do relationship coaching too.
Oh my gosh. Well, maybe one day. We are works in progress in the very best way. I love that about us. And he's been my business partner through this, and I'm so thankful for him. He started Bark and Fits, founded Bark and Fits, the doggy boutique. Okay, that was probably one of the conventions he was going to. And it's just, he, with Legacy, our headband company and the lifestyle brand that I, really created in honor of my mom. I'm so thankful for his expertise in business and his experience in business, because I think, had I not had that, what felt like, okay, he's done it before. So if he can start a business from thinking on the end of a dock about a doggy boutique, well, then certainly I can find someone to help me figure out how to do these amazing headbands. And also part of that too is giving back. We have a gift a headband program as well with Legacy. To date, we've gifted just under 900 headbands to women, men, and children, and beanies that are walking through cancer. And it's just a beautiful, so it's gift a headband program in honor of my mom. Anybody, if anyone's listening to this and anyone that's walking through cancer, treatment, survivor, we've sent some to kids of the moms that have passed away, and I've sent notes to them.
This is you can work.
Yeah, you can find that on Legacy by Kim underneath the gift a headband program. But that's where the compelling legacy work has really come. Like, I love helping women, and I love working on ourselves, and I love wellness. And, but to me, there's also this huge underpinning of like, how can we serve? How can we impact? How can we be more in community? And how can we support people that are going through a lot? So it's been beautiful to be able to have that. gift a headband program. We're really proud of it as well. So it's been cool. And that's how this has evolved. It's evolved through heart, right? It's evolved through hard work, failing, figuring out. And I always say,
a big part of it is how you show up, and you do it daily. And I want to talk about that because it takes a heck of a lot of courage to just flick your phone on and start talking. And there's no script, no planning. You don't have the right lighting. You don't have you're just like, here I am. Here I am. Kim said, I still don't. I was really expecting you to come on like lit up in a studio. And
I'm like, this is not good, but it's fine.
I was like, are you a hot mess? She's like, I am not a hot mess. I'm not a hot mess. I just got a lot on my plate, which is fair. Women, women really do we have a lot on our plates. How do you juggle it all? I know you're an expert. And I do want to talk about some of like the real, the nuts and bolts, because you really are big on your morning routine, which I watch you and I always say, I got to get that damn morning routine back, because
I'm going to send you my journal.
Okay. I have a morning routine, but my morning routine is too dedicated to everybody else. All right. Like I'm already, first thing I do and I but anyways, we're going to talk about that because you're a big one. And the truth is, when I was in the healthiest place in my life for many, many years, when I wrote actually a book on it, like I'm looking at the different books. This was my very first book, and it's all dear. And I have so many copies. I shouldn't have this one, Simply Woman. That's where this show came from.
Yeah.
And it was all about the morning routine. Like, man, when you can master that morning routine, it sets your day up.
Yeah.
So inspire me, and let's inspire everyone today to help them get their heads around what does that mean, and what does it look like for you?
Sure. So I think one of the things I'd love to disclaim, Crystal, if I can, is that a morning routine is so unique to you. So what I'd love for you to hear today is, great, that won't work for the current season I'm in my life, but here's what might. So I just want to remind us that it's so amazing to go watch what other people are doing and try to, implement it. But it's hard to do that when it's hard to do that when it doesn't fit for you. So and I've gone through multiple seasons where, Crystal, I've been so good on my morning routine, and then all of a sudden tragedy happens and things happen, and I'm just sorry, my dog is losing it. I hope you can't hear her.
Oh my gosh, don't worry about it. Just so you know, I have a dog too, and I'm at the point now that I say to my husband, no, you have to take the dog in the car and leave the house for 30 minutes. That's all I'm asking for, is 30 minutes, because
this is what's happening. So morning routine,
real life.
I feel like there's a couple things I had to do that were non-negotiable. So number one, I read, and this may be a great reread for anybody, but Hal Elrod, The Miracle Morning. So I read Hal Elrod, The Miracle Morning. I found that very successful. It was 6 basic steps. And I was like, oh, I love habits. Like, I'm very much a checkmarker. Like, I have all these little trackers, and I'm very much a habit girl. So I was like, okay, I can do this. And it consisted of like read. So I was like, okay, I can read 5 pages. I can, and that's why I like some of the books like Heart Talks, Cleo Wade, where I just open the book and there's a beautiful poem and that's one thing. So that's one book. I love to do affirmations. So you can find an affirmation deck that resonates with you. I really like Gabrielle Bernstein's Super Attractor. I love that one. So that's one you could do. There's lots of other ones though that might resonate with you. And I love to pull an affirmation and just sit with that, for a long time, especially during the pandemic, which we all walked through, this capital T trauma, all I could do was put my feet on the ground and just think of 3 things I was grateful for. Sometimes that's all a morning routine needs to be. Yeah. I think sometimes people think I need to implement this 30-minute routine, and you don't have time for that. So
I'm totally doing a morning routine, because I wake up every morning and I journal first. The first thing I do is I actually have a Google Doc. The one I start different ones with different themes. So the one I started on May 28th was, do I have a book in front of me? It was one I interviewed Pat Mitchell, who had wrote the book, Becoming a Dangerous Woman. And she's 80 years old. And she was the first woman to have a nationally syndicated television show across the US. I can't even believe I don't remember. She was the first female president of PBS. Yeah. She was the president of CNN Productions. When I interviewed her, and she was 79, and she was like, I am still an activist. There's so much to do. I was like, I'm 51. I need to
Yeah.
become a dangerous woman. So I started that journal. And it's so funny because from May 28th to now, every day, it's sort of the intention is, what am I doing to be more dangerous?
Exactly.
So
Yes.
it's an intention, what I'm hearing you
It's
say. Like, it's
intentional.
almost like
Yes.
it's a morning way of just starting your day in your way
Exactly.
to just be more intentional.
Exactly. It could be a blank piece of paper. It could be just a mindset thing. And I love that you said this because it's a great, for a lot of people, they're like, I don't know where to start. Get a blank piece of paper, get a notebook, get a
Yep.
sticky note.
I
That's
live
all
with
you
my
need. Yeah.
kids all over the house.
That's it, right? And it's one of the things I love to think about, and I love to say this is like, today will be great, right?
Yeah.
I will be, right? It's really like almost
I
like
hear your doggy. She's just like, please,
oh,
mama.
she is mad. It's like an incantation, right? Of like, how am I really going to start this day? And that could take 5 minutes. It could take, I love meditation and I love moving my body in the morning. Like I really do.
Your body is so important. And it's so interesting because when you're not doing it, like I get in these, and it's so crazy to think for years and years and years, I got up every morning and did like a 10K run. And I did that for so much of my life.
Right.
And I felt like a superhero.
Yeah.
And then something just, I don't know, I don't want to use excuses of age because I know there's lots of people, but something in me changed where I was like, where am I running to? Instead of realizing that something shifted. So then I started doing yoga, then it became more, but it really is something about moving your money. If it's just walking, just getting outside, going for a morning walk around your neighborhood.
Exactly. It can be anything. So, and then that's really my best advice on your morning routine. And it's going to fall to you. Like, sure, I can give you these 6 habits, but you need to, first of all, wake up. Right.
Thank God.
The other thing I'd say to that end too on this, Crystal, and I think this is important. I remember for a long time, I wanted Jamie to wake me up at 5:20. So I made it Jamie's responsibility to wake me up at 5:20. And I said, and then I would be mad if he didn't wake me up.
You didn't wake me up. Why didn't you wake me up?
He didn't wake me up. So now it's his fault. It's your fault that I can't get up early. And when it all changed for me is when I decided that I was going to be the one that made the decision of when I was getting up. I was going to set my alarm across the room. I was going to lay out my workout clothes so that I knew I was going to get in my closet or wherever you are, your bathroom right beside your bed, put on your clothes before you can think about it and lay back down.
That's the secret. Because I get up. That's how I used to do it. The first thing I did was pull on my clothes and just walk out the door. And I would say to myself,
yes,
you don't have to jog if you don't want to. You just to get to that mailbox. There was a certain mailbox.
If I put my house coat on, I'm hooped. Like if I put this
I gotta change. I gotta get up and get ready because oh my God, I get up, I get my coffee, I let my dog out, I get cozy, I put a little blanket around my shoulders, I put the fire on, I light some candles, and then I start journaling.
I would never leave.
I don't.
I would journal for hours.
I journal and then and then my team starts coming in, and then by 9 o'clock, everyone on the team is working. So that I'm in. And then sometimes I'm coaching and it's 5 PM and I'm still in the same damn spot, in the same damn clothes, blankets. And it's like, it can become like Groundhog Day.
It can. And that's where you break it. So I would actually recommend like creating a different space, Crystal. Like if that's where you work, like I have this little nook right over here in my office that's like a separate chair that I sit in. I refuse to do it here because this is where I work. So it's like, just find a chair in your home and put a little, but I will say, like, sometimes I find when I journal after my workout, it's easier because I'm just a little bit more efficient. I find that I can meditate and journal and do all those things. But it will take me a really long time. And then I won't get my workouts done because I really like to sit in.
And the problem is, if you're a thinker, like I am a writer for a living. I've written 6 books, international books. So writing is my therapy, my medicine, my medication, my everything. And I can really get pulled into it. And I can think, well, I'm helping heal the world. This work is really important. But then you somehow forget about your physical needs.
Exactly.
Because they're really important too, is those physical needs.
And when you feel that way, then what I find is that I'm actually more disconnected from my work. So when I find that I'm not doing, whether it be prioritizing my nutrition or prioritizing my hydration or prioritizing my sleep, right? Like sleep
Yeah.
is so important.
Yeah.
And that's the work. I always recommend to people is like, why don't you start with your current 24 hours? Like, what does it look like? When did you wake up? When are you going to bed? What are you doing? How, like, you know, and I often will joke on my Insta stories, you know, if I do like a few stories in a row, at the end, I'll be like, by the way, you can't tell me you don't have time because you watched to this Insta story. And I got so many messages back being like, you're right. I just watched, you know, a minute, which you could do thought work for a minute. You could, right? It's just a habit. So it's just
You've
switching
really
those
created that though. Like you've really learned, and whether, you know, that's really probably the big takeaway from you is like, every day is a new day, restart this morning, let's start. And before you know it, we really do start to create habits in the brain. Did I have neuroscientists last week who we talked about how emotions and learning are so connected that and that's why superpowers, I mean, our emotions are our superpowers, because yes, when something traumatic happens, yes, it forms a really deep groove in the brain. But when something really good happens and you're happy, that's the same. If you can learn and do something while you're feeling happier and more joyous, that will form a deep groove in the brain much faster than not really enjoying it. So you've really become masterful at that as well. I know in your bio, you have a personal creed that you live by. The impact of leading yourself first will ripple out into all the aspects of your life. So let's go back to overnight success. I mean, what was it for you? I know you talked about your kids and that was a big change for you, but there really was something in there that allowed you to step into really being this incredible leader. And you have this energy and this something. So if you could say to another woman, let's just, because we are simply women, for women, by women, about women, if you could say to a woman, like, this is how I did it. And I know everyone's got it different, but the daily routine and all that is beautiful. And that's what makes you such a beautiful, peaceful, joyous person. But let's talk the business for a minute. Like, how did you do that in such a short amount of time?
Well, I think it wasn't short because
it seems short.
People see the short, right? But what you don't see is that I've been doing personal development since I was 17. So I've been sitting with the Wayne Dyers, Robin Sharmas, Brendan Bouchards, like you name it, like, you know, Mahatma Gandhi, like I read autobiographies for breakfast. Like that is so part of it is like leadership. You know, I love John Maxwell. I sink myself into learning so much. And so what feels like I'm a leader, I've been a leader since I was a baby. You know, I've been a leader. I've been captains of teams. I'm an athlete. I've played varsity. Like I've always been that leader, even though I viewed myself as a victim. I was always this.
I love hearing that. That's what I love hearing, because I remember when I wrote my memoir, and I know we're getting close on time here. When I wrote my memoir and I shared it with a few women, they were just so shocked because there was so much trauma and tragedy and abuse and neglect, and they were almost jolted because they suddenly now saw me through a different lens, which was one they never perceived before. And that's when I realized in that moment, like, oh, no, I was always a leader. Like, I know there was all that abuse, but all through that, I was still a bright, shiny, golden girl.
Even in my corporate career, I was always like, we're going to win this award. We're going to get the innovation award. Like that was always me. So I'm not shocked that I ran with this because I was also a camp counselor forever. And my first diploma before my degree was like rec and leisure, hospitality, rec and tourism, events. Like I was always this like, let's plan a party. And that's kind of when
you have your team, this is our last tip. So when you have your team and now you have this huge team of coaches under you, if you were to give them sort of this is the first couple of things you have to do to get your business off the ground. Like if you were to give them those first couple of things.
Number one, you need to lead yourself, because when you are not leading yourself, you cannot lead a business. You will be so sitting in your doubt and all the things that you're telling yourself that you can't move yourself forward. So number one, you need to make yourself your first priority and lead yourself first. In order to serve well, you have to serve yourself well, you know? That's number one. Number two, I think what you prioritize comes to fruition. So if you have this vision and you are thinking what you want in your life, right, you need to prioritize that. You need to prioritize where you're going to grow with that, how that's going to turn into this vision for you. But you need to be clear on what you want. And if you aren't clear on what you want, it gets really muddled for where you're going to go. So the more you get clear on the service that you want to offer, the impact you want to make, the income you want to make, the memories you want to make with your family, it's like you're literally casting your future out before you even start. Then
like
you get
waving a magic wand.
Yeah. It's
You're
like
conjuring up the.
Yeah. 2022 is the year everything changed. Why? Where are we going to go? Right? Like how do you command that? And then the work is work, right? The work is how you go conduct yourself. But the belief is really
and you're
important.
a big one though. You are a big one on just getting on social, even if, because there was a point that you started with no followers.
Yes. Oh yeah. Like terrible photos. If you scroll all the way to the back, whoof. Yeah. And I mean, you just have to do it. You just got to show up. Some things are going to resonate with people, some aren't. And you just got to believe that what you're saying is going to help one person. Yeah. And if it helps one person, then you've done your job today.
And you've helped many, and we love you. So I got to tell you, next week, we're talking with Asha Frost, the international best-selling author of her new and first book, You Are the Medicine. Asha and I have been friends, colleagues. I've gone to her for healing. She's come to my retreats. But we're going to be talking about cultural appropriation. We're going to be talking about the letter that started it all a few years ago on Facebook that went viral. And the letter started with, "Dear white woman who wants to be like me, you don't want to miss it." We're going to be back here next Tuesday live on Facebook. And plus, we'd love to help your help with the best show topics. And maybe we'll even invite you to be one of our guest experts. You'll want to head to http, not the www, just go http, whatever that is, simplywoman.tv, join our mailing list and stay in the loop. It's been my pleasure to connect with you today. Again, my name is Crystal Andrus Morissette. We're going to be back next week for another episode of simplywoman.tv. Thank you so much, Kim. You're extraordinary, and we have to do this again.
Thanks so much, Crystal. Appreciate it.
Thank you. We are for women, by women, and about women, and we'll see you next week. Bye for now.
You are stronger than